Hello and welcome to another Timeless video. It's been a while since I've last covered the format, but it's now been completely shaken up by the new stellar sites from Edge of Eternities, these incredibly powerful lands that are not legal in Standard, but are legal in Timeless, at least for the time being. Lands like Eldrazi Temple, making 2 colorless mana to cast your Eldrazi spells. There's Ancient Tomb, which we're playing today, a land that can make 2 colorless mana at the cost of 2 life. We'll also see a lot of play in Brawl. And then last but not least, the most notorious out of these lands is Strip Mine, a land that can make a colorless mana, or we can sacrifice it to destroy any target land, even opposing basic lands. So this land is completely busted, so busted in fact that it's even restricted in Vintage, Magic's most powerful format, where you can only play with 1 copy. The second most powerful format, Legacy, Strip Mine is completely banned. So it's kind of the first time that we get to play with 4 copies of Strip Mine in a format, so this will turn into kind of an experimental playground to see in how many ways we can break Strip Mine, but of course it's already broken, so it doesn't need a lot of help. However, we're still playing a lot of effects in this deck that let us replay lands out of the graveyard, so we can consistently get back our Strip Mine. We've got ways to play additional lands each turn, so we can Strip Mine our opponent over and over again until there's no lands left. And the new Icetill Explorer from Edge of Eternities combines both of those abilities, a 4 mana 2/4, saying we may play an additional land each turn, and we may play lands from the graveyard. Even has a landfall. Whenever a land enters, we mill a card, which is useful in potentially milling additional lands into the graveyard, including Strip Mine if we don't have one in circulation already. And then besides the Explorer, we can also use the Ramanap Excavator to replay lands from our graveyard to get access to Strip Mine. And then we can also combine it with Azusa, Lost But Seeking, to play 2 additional lands each turn, so that's incredibly effective when combined with the Excavator or the Explorer, as we can now rebuy our Strip Mine over and over, as well as our many fetch lands, which can just get an extra forest to help us ramp, and we even have some lands that can be sacrificed to draw a card, so these can also be combined with Azusa, Excavator, or Explorer to draw through the deck. And then our actual win condition involves Karn, the Great Creator, getting various cards out of the sideboard. Can also use it as another land destruction effect if we get access to the Liquid Metal Coating, which can target an opposing land, turning it into an artifact. Now Karn's plus ability turns that artifact into a 0/0 creature, which dies on the spot, so that can also repeatedly shut down opposing lands. Of course, shuts down activated abilities of opposing artifacts, so it can be effective against the various Charbelcher combo decks if those still see play, and can shut down opposing copies of Chrome Mox, which we're playing as well. And then the -2 can of course find additional hate cards like Tormod's Crypt against graveyard decks. Haywire Might can blow up artifacts and enchantments. Pithing Needle can shut down problematic planeswalkers like Ajani. There's the coding we talked about. And then Conduit of Worlds is another important one that we'll often prioritize. Another way to play lands from our graveyard. Gives us a bit more redundancy in case we don't draw Excavator or Explorer. And then we're playing this over the cheaper Crucible of Worlds, as we can also tap and activate it. Choose a non-land permanent in our graveyard that we get to recast if we haven't cast another spell this turn. And that combines with our final piece of the puzzle, Mindslaver, a 6 mana artifact, 4 mana to tap and sacrifice, and then we control our opponent during that player's next turn. So if we can combine Mindslaver with Crucible and have access to 10 mana, we can keep getting Mindslaver back out of the graveyard over and over, controlling the opponent's future turns, and that will lock them out of the game. Also have the One Ring, which can also come in handy if we need to protect ourselves for a turn, but there's a few flex slots here in the sideboard that you can tinker with. And then of course this is also an Ancient Tomb deck, which is a great way to ramp out our various 3 and 4 mana spells, and it's also a great way to cast a Chalice of the Void for X=1 as early as turn 1. So from now on this will counter any 1 mana spells that are getting cast. Now this is a symmetrical effect, but of course our deck is designed around it, so we don't have any 1 mana spells ourselves, so especially if you're on the play, this might be able to catch all the opponent's 1 mana plays they have in hand before they get a chance to even cast them, and it also prevents the opponent from resolving another spell even if we have the Strip Mine lock into place, because while we can destroy the opponent's lands over and over, they could still play a land for turn, tap it for mana, and cast a 1-drop. So now with Chalice we can also prevent that from happening, and then that will lock the opponent out of the game completely. And then to help set up Chalice on 1 on turn 1, we're also playing the full set of Chrome Mox, which needs to imprint a green spell to be able to make green mana. So it does take 2 cards to set that up, but it's usually worth it to speed up the process of Chalice as well as the other 3 and 4 mana spells. And another free spell that we get to cast sometimes is Once Upon a Time, which is only free if it's the first spell we're casting in the game. Otherwise, it's a fine way to maybe still find additional lands or creatures, so it can also help assemble the various Strip Mine locks, and it's also a card we don't mind pitching to Chrome Mox once it's no longer free. And another decent 2-drop in the deck is Lotus Cobra, since we are playing so many extra landfall effects, and fetch lands are also great at making mana with it, so that can also set up for more expensive plays. And Malevolent Rumble, milling a bunch of cards, is also useful for getting lands into the graveyard, where we can then get them back with both Excavator and Explorer, and it still helps us ramp, while still maybe finding some of our prison elements, so that can also come in handy. And then we've pretty much covered most of the lands. Boseiju can also be used to blow up artifacts and enchantments, but we can only channel it once, so once we get it in the graveyard, we won't be able to channel it again. Plenty of forests to find with our various fetch lands. I'm kind of playing a bunch of 1-off and 2-off fetch lands, just to play around an opposing Pithing Needle, which could shut them down otherwise. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play with a decent hand. Chalice on 1. And we're getting close to doing stuff with the Explorer as well. Could also keep Excavator, but Explorer's a little bit more exciting. And hopefully Chalice on 1 is effective in the matchup. Opponent's got a Once Upon a Time, so they might be trying something similar. I can Strip Mine and then Rumble. And then if Rumble finds a land, I can still Explore and then keep Strip Mining. So this is pretty much the game state we want to have. A Chalice on 1 and then the Strip Mine lock, so whatever 1-drop our opponent might be able to cast gets countered. Found another Strip Mine, so that could work. So take out your Colony Garden and Rumble. Finding Karn, which can help close it out. I guess our opponent could Strip Mine me back to slow down the combo. Windswept Heath we can only target once they fetch, but that's okay. So yeah, go ahead and play the Strip Mine, play Explorer, and get Strip Mine back. So they can technically cast a 2-drop here, because they can fetch in their turn and then float mana if I go and destroy their land. If I had an extra land drop left, then I could Strip Mine the fetch land, forcing them to sack, and then I could Strip Mine the land they got. So yeah, they gotta make their 2-drop count. It's gonna be a Verdant, so another fetch land. Alright, so I could Strip Mine now, or take my draw step. Find a fetch land. So, yeah, let's start Strip Mining. Opponent's gonna fetch. They get to Surveil. And we can run it back. So then I could still double Strip Mine. Yeah, that's probably fine. And yeah, her opponent realizes what's happening and scoops it up. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a promising hand. Need to find an effect to replay lands out of the graveyard. Opponent with Leyline of Sanctity, protecting from discard effects. as they are likely playing a show and tell combo deck, as we see Atraxa pitched to the Chrome Mox. So, yeah, if our opponents got show and tell, they could technically combo off next turn already, and there's not much I can do about it. So playing Strip Mine doesn't help me in this situation where our opponent's got a fetch land. So I may as well cast a Rumble. And then found the Explorer. So next turn I could play Explorer, still Strip Mine. Opponent's gonna Brainstorm. If they show and tell, I can put in Karn. Does that stop the opponent in any way? Stopping their activated abilities of artifacts? I don't think so. They just need to loop Atraxa. And then at some point they can cast Approach. Alright, opponent goes Ancient Tomb Pass. So, yeah, we'll see if they have a counterspell here. But going for Explorer seems worth it. If I play Azusa, I'm gonna be a little bit short of playing Explorer. Karn also an option to shut down the Chrome Mox, but mana doesn't seem to be the limiting factor here. So now we can Strip Mine the Ancient Tomb. Opponent's gonna stifle the Strip Mine trigger. Alright, fair enough. So they could have also stifled my fetch land to begin with. So that saves Ancient Tomb for a turn. Can our opponent combo in the meantime? They're gonna Impulse to try and find presumably Show and Tell or a card to cheat into play with Show and Tell. Stock up, alright, so no combo this turn. Unless they go a land, Dark Ritual, Show and Tell, and have another card left, but that seems unlikely. Alright, so we can start Strip Mining. And we even have Azusa to do it multiple times. So hit your... Could go for Polluted Delta, because they could still have a counterspell up here, which I maybe want to try and play around. So this is maybe a strange play, but I want to make sure Azusa resolves. Opponent gets a tapped Sewers. So now we can play Azusa. And Strip Mine a few more times. Getting the colored mana. Although maybe Ancient Tomb's still scarier if they need 3 mana for Show and Tell. Because yeah, the Chrome Mox makes every color until we play Karn. I guess I can still play an extra land out, so I can actually hit both. And our opponent concedes, because on one land they're not going to be able to combo off. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand's not quite unfair enough. Turn 2 Chalice on the draw seems a little slow. This one seems better. Can Once Upon a Time, I've got the Chrome Mox. And then I guess look for Strip Mine, since we have the Explorer already. Turn 1 Shambling Gas, so some sort of Nightmare deck most likely. Oh, there's Ancient Tomb. So I could play turn 1 Excavator, but that doesn't really do much at the moment. Find another Ancient Tomb. Don't really need 2 of them. So for now, I guess we can thin out the deck with Vista. And save Chrome Mox till next turn to play Explorer. Opponent's got the Medallion, so they're setting up their combo with Nightmare and the Priest of Gix. So If I find a chalice, putting it on... Yeah, there it is. Putting it on 2 would stop the Nightmare. Can they still combo off without Nightmare? Becomes a lot harder. So I think chalice on 2 is reasonable, and we can do that now. Thanks to Ancient Tomb. Stops all their 2-mana creatures as well. They can still cast their 1-drops. Alright, there's a Priest of Gix. But that's it. And Apprentice gets countered by Chalice, but maybe they can get it back out of the graveyard somehow. And there's Strip Mine, beautiful. So Explorer. I will not need Prismatic Vista this turn. Start blowing up lanes. They still get a 1-mana discount from Medallion, so they could still cast another 3-drop. Possible they have Fatal Push to deal with the Explorer. Apprentice gets countered, and our opponent explodes. Awesome. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. Can drop a turn 1 Chalice, Pitching Cobra, but that's about it. So, feels pretty underwhelming. This hand is incredibly fair, with no real accelerant or interaction. So it's probably not going to cut it. Alright, we've got a keeper. So I want to keep Explorer with Crow Mox. Although I do need to pitch a green card to the Crow Mox. So maybe this is a hand where I can't afford to keep it, since we're just low on resources. But if I draw a land, then I guess I can afford to pitch Once Upon a Time. If I draw another green card, I can pitch, and then Once Upon a Time finds a land. So, close call. Could also keep Excavator as kind of a cheaper Explorer, even if it's not quite as explosive. But I can already play it turn 2. Yeah, let's try this. Opponent's gonna Grave Expectations, heisting my library. That's fine. Question now is, do we want to Strip Mine? Well, I guess now we just Chalice on 1. So Crow Mox, pitch Once Upon a Time. And then I'll save myself the damage. So hopefully that's effective. Of course, whatever card they stole from our deck is going to get around Chalice. Opponent blue-black. So try and play Excavator. And then next turn we can start Strip Mining. Or I can Strip Mine Once Upon a Time to hit my land drop. Yeah, that's maybe safer. Hit the blue mana, since that's going to represent counter spells. Okay, Once Upon a Time at instant speed. Now a Lootmonger, so they're just fully going for the heist mechanic. Discards a Volgavoth, so possible there's a reanimation angle as well, but Chalice stops the actual factual reanimate. So I need a land here. Find another Strip Mine, could play Excavator, can maybe block the Lootmonger. I think I need to keep their mana in check. This is where having an Ancient Tomb would make it easier to get the Excavator down. It's a lot of basic lands for the opponents. Maybe they're running Blood Moon. Another Once Upon a Time. Yeah, probably gotta go for Excavator now. Hope it survives. Sadly, don't get to play an extra land right away. And Unstoppable Slasher. Yeah, that could be a problem. A Rumble can maybe chump the Slasher for a turn. So, start with Rumble. And then, if I find something like Azusa, that would be useful. So I can play Strip Mine, play Azusa, and then I still have 2 land drops remaining. So I can keep strip mining the opponent's lands. Now, they do have a Slasher in play, that's eventually going to kill me. But for now we can prevent him from casting any more spells. And then we have a Waterlogged Grove, so that plus Azusa can also maybe go off. Slasher connects. Alright, so we've got some work to do. Strip mine the swamp for starters. Can strip mine again. So now they can only cast 1 mana spells which get countered by Chalice. And then now I start drawing with the Grove, or I can Once Upon a Time first, which maybe digs a bit deeper. Could have also done that first, maybe find a Lotus Cobra, which would have helped. And here, go for Explorer. So I can still play 1 extra land, I believe. So I won't be able to play Explorer. Yeah, I can still sack the Grove, but we can save that for next turn. So I could consider jumping with Azusa. But it could be nice to keep around. So I'm at 2. So I have to be careful with any fetch lands now as well. Luckily this doesn't cost any life. Find Karn. Okay. So do I strip mine? So what's my plan with Karn? Eventually lock the opponent out with Mindslaver. It's gonna take a second to set up still, since I don't have a ton of mana. And I can't easily get a lot of fetch lands now that we're at 2, so that also limits my options. So I don't know if I actually want to strip mine. Let's take my turn for now. Boseiju is an extra land at least. Probably play the forests. Do we play the Explorer? Because if it mills additional lands that are just basic forests, I can still play those pretty easily. So that seems useful. So I can strip mine the swamp, get back strip mine. Mill the forest, which I can play, or I can go for Waterlogged Grove. Well, let's go for the forest. And then I can still play the Grove. Alright, so now I do have to block the Slasher, of course. But we've gotten our value. And then next turn we can try and put Karn to use. Can at the very least get a 1 ring to protect me. But the end goal is Mindslaver. 6 mana to play, 4 to activate. So I would buy myself more time by just double blocking the Slasher. Anything else Karn can get? I mean, Conduit of Worlds can eventually get those creatures back as well. A 1 ring makes some amount of sense, but I wouldn't be able to activate it. So for now, I guess give up on the excavator, which I don't really need. But yeah, I could double block with Azusa, because we are somewhat limited in which lands we can return, since I have so many fetch lands left. So now at least the Slasher's not going to bother us for a while. Explorer blocks Lootmonger. So then do I sack Grove or do I take my turn? Because I can only tap this once for mana. But maybe once is enough. Now let's sack it. Finding another creature would also help. A Rumble sort of does it. Alright, so we'll take our turn now. A Lotus Cobra is kind of what we were looking for. So I can play it. Strip mine your swamp. And replay strip mine. Make some mana, mill forest, which we can play. Won't be getting Ancient Tomb back. And then now play Karn. Get Mindslaver.
We can do this. We must.
Cast Rumble. Which finds probably Azusa at this point. Could go for a backup Explorer just in case. But Azusa makes sense. Yeah, maybe should have rumbled a little sooner. So our opponent can't do anything. We untap. And then now it's time for the old Mindslaver lock. So play Boseiju. Milled another strip mine, which is convenient. Cast Mindslaver. Target my opponents. So I control their next turn, and Karn is going to get the Conduit, which will be able to get back Mindslaver going forward. And then I don't want to attack, so we can send the Lootmonger into the Explorer. Can I see which cards are face down? There's a Karn. Another Karn. Alright, so it's just two Karns. Okay, they don't have any lands. Betrayal actually could have exiled my graveyard. And then a bunch more stuff to heist my deck. Okay, so Lootmonger is going to attack. I'm going to block. Lootmonger down. Take my turn. So now I need to establish Conduit, which currently cannot get back the Mindslaver yet. But we'll be able to next turn, since yeah, we've already cast a permanent, but that's okay. Can Rumble, making sure I don't deck myself. Find Excavator. Can play it. And get back some of these lands. Yeah, I can stop playing lands soon enough. Karn can plus. Could also plus on something like a Conduit, but that's not really necessary. And then I can afford to attack. And then we should have the mana to Mindslaver and keep activating it to lock the opponent out. So our opponent gets one turn with a Slasher, can just jump with a Spawn if we'd like. Or I could double block again. If our opponent keeps Slasher back, then that doesn't matter. I'll control the opponent and I can attack with it. So yeah, took a while to set up, but this is the end game. Conduit of Worlds with Mindslaver. I'm sure there's other finishers we could choose as well that are maybe a little bit more convenient. Can go for a Portal to Phyrexia, Cityscape Leveler, or something in between. But this does give us some inevitability. Does require 10 mana on the battlefields, which, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9. I guess I just need to find one more forest, because I can't afford to lose life to my peatland, for instance. But there should still be a couple forests left in the deck. And Conduit can also get our other threats back from the graveyard, if that were necessary. And there's some other tricks we can also pull off with Karn, like Tormod Script. Exiling my own graveyard gives me access to all artifacts in exile again to get with Karn's minus. Can maybe gain some life with the Haywire Might. There's Liquimetal Coating, which can target opposing lands as well, and then Karn plussing on them is basically land destruction. But there's a lot of ways to configure the Wishboard with Karn. Our opponent seems to have disconnected, but to be fair, even if they were still here, they would probably not take any more game actions for the rest of the game, as we can just Mindslaver over and over. Alright, and that'll do it. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a solid hand. Once Upon a Time finds already a fetch lands. I don't think I need to prioritize Boseiju. Azusa could be useful. And then for now, pitch Rumble. Or I can pitch Azusa and keep the Rumble. Either way, gonna Chalice on 1. Yeah, next turn play Azusa, but the problem is I still need to draw land before I can play the Explorer. So maybe I actually prefer the Rumble. And Chalice on 1. So pretty good initial turn if our opponent is playing a lot of 1-drops, which is not a guarantee. Scalding Tarn. Found Strip Mine, alright. So we can Rumble. Find... I don't think I need another Chalice, do I? Maybe Chalice on 2 is useful. Excavator gives me redundancy in case something bad happens to the Explorer. Play Strip Mine and pass, so I can blow up the lands if they do fetch end of turn, for instance. So they're not going to. Now they're gonna fetch, but of course they can float mana in response to me using Strip Mine. So 2 mana available. And they're gonna mill themselves with a Glimpse, I see. So this is a self-mill kind of combo deck. Alright, so that happens. Opponent milled Narcomoeba, which in turn does not have anything else to get back. There is Wanderer to give the team flying, and then Bloodghast 2-1 haste. So it could have been a lot worse. And next turn we're gonna Strip Mine, lock them, so they won't be able to cast many other spells. So take my turn. Lotus Cobra seems useful, so let's see if we play Cobra. Play Prismatic Vista. I'll still have the Strip Mine available. So that works. That's the wrong snake. So I can play Explorer, Strip Mine, get back Strip Mine. And we've got a 2-4 blocker to get in the way of, I guess, Bloodghast will have flying as long as they control an island, but with Strip Mine that shouldn't be an issue. And our opponent scoops it up. Yeah, they only got 1 shot at milling themselves, and they blew it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand has potential. Still needs maybe some extra mana acceleration or a way to replace Strip Mine, but can maybe find it with Once Upon a Time. Opponent blue-white. mills basic planes. Alright, Chromox always helps. So Once Upon a Time first, finding a Lotus Cobra. Seems like the best pick here. And then I can pitch, rumble, cast Cobra, or we can just cast a rumble so we can maybe set up Karn next turn. Yeah, either way, pitch or rumble. Question is Cobra versus rumble, or I can just strip mine my opponent's land and take it from there. Yeah, that's maybe better. Slow them down. So, could have maybe kept the Chromox in hand a bit longer. Opponent does have Hallowed Fountain into Vexing Bauble, so can cast free spells, so I guess I'm glad I actually played the Chromox. And we found the Explorer already. So this turn could either Cobra or Rumble. Let's Rumble. And then Ancient Tomb helps. Azusa would eventually help, but not right now. So even if the token dies, I can still play Karn or Explorer. I see Stoneforge. So that can put equipment into play without needing to cast them, but it still requires 2 mana. Alright, so this turn, if I go for Cobra, I don't have a fetch land. So then it's probably Ancient Tomb, Explorer. Karn can also shut down the equip ability on their artifacts. Strip Mine mills another Strip Mine. And we're starting to take a hold of the opponent's mana base. They might have Swords to Plowshares for Explorer. And yeah, another Glacial Fortress entered tapped, so can't activate Stoneforge. And now Azusa is potentially gonna take everything out. So I can start with Cobra, making sure not to use both my green sources. Play Strip Mine, make a mana. Mill the Chalice. Strip Mine your land. And they could float a mana. Still want to make use of my floating mana as well, but yeah, we'll start by replaying Strip Mine. Destroy your land. Opponent's going to brainstorm a response, so they likely have another land for next turn. But I can play Azusa, replay a few more lands, play Karn. So we're definitely doing it. Probably no need to put double Strip Mine on the battlefield, but why not? And Karn will prompt a concession. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand is maybe a little slow, but still gonna try it. Once Upon a Time looking for a way to rebuy Strip Mine out of the graveyard. And then Lotus Cobra and Ancient Tomb give us a little bit of mana acceleration to set up Karn. Opponent might be a Charbelcher deck, so then Karn is a way to shut that down. But yeah, Grief is gonna have a look. We'll let that resolve. Might go after one of the 2 Karns. There's a chance they can reanimate Grief as well to take both. Opponent's gonna sacrifice the Grief, making 4 mana. So they could still do some stuff afterwards. Actually takes the Once Upon a Time. And now a Balustrade Spy. Alright, so opponent just wins the game on turn 1. Or pretty much. So is it a Charbelcher variant or is it just a Dredge deck? Yeah, I guess there's no Charbelcher in this list. Just a self-mill deck, milling 4 copies of Creeping Chill. Can get back Prized Amalgam. Thanks to the Silver Smote Ghouls returning. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you're on the draw and the opponent does this on turn 1. But that's timeless for you. GG's. Prized Amalgam returns, since it triggered off Silver Smote, which only came back at the end of the opponent's turn, so had to wait until the next end step. And there we go. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a pretty solid hand. Both Ancient Tomb and Chromox. So we could play turn 1 Azusa, play 2 more lands if we have them. But yeah, currently we don't have any disruption for the opponent. No Chalice, no Strip Mine. So we're just hoping that our early ramp is good enough to carry us. Opponent starting with the Gemstone Caverns. And yeah, I guess our opponent was on the draw, so enters with a lucky counter on it. That's nice. Okay, so I guess, yeah, we were on the play. So I have to decide now what to do. Yeah, turn 1 Azusa still sounds good to me. Or we could go for Excavator first. And then with Excavator in play, I can eventually get my fetch line back, which also goes off with Azusa. Opponent's got the Chromox, so they could have access to 4 mana with their own Ancient Tomb. They're gonna seek New Knowledge, so this might be more of a Thassa's Oracle combo deck. Yeah, I forget exactly how it functions. Chalice, I would probably want to play on X equals 2, since that stops cards like Tainted Pact and Thassa's Oracle. I forget if there's other relevant spells I need to worry about. So we could Chalice on 2. Let's say if I play Azusa, 3 land drops, I'm going to be a little bit short of Chalice, so that doesn't quite work. So yeah, I'll keep it simple. Now, of course, Chalice on 2 does counter my own Rumble. But yeah, if it stops us from losing the game, it's worth it. Opponent's gonna Brainstorm, that still works. Okay, so I can play Azusa and then get my fetch line back multiple times. So we're thinning out the deck and ramping at the same time. And then it's just a matter of finding a Strip Mine. If our opponent is more of a control deck, then Chalice also stops their counter spells. Opponent goes for Seek New Knowledge, that's gonna get countered. And our opponent explodes, awesome. Yeah, someone in the comments let me know exactly what our opponent was trying to do, since I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, either way, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand has potential, although I would love to find like an Ancient Tomb with Once Upon a Time to maybe Chalice on turn 1. Would also set up turn 2 Azusa. Finding Strip Mine would also pair well with the Explorer. So we are hoping for a good Once Upon a Time, otherwise this hand might be a little slow. Opponent with turn 1 island. Yeah, let's see what we can find. Strip mine it is. And yeah, I'll just strip mine their island then. Slow them down while we await to find an Ancient Tomb, for instance. Always have the option of playing Chalice on 0. But that would be bad if we draw our Mox. Drew the Ancient Tomb, so that's perfect. And now we can Chalice on 1. That resolves. Don't know if it's going to be useful in this matchup. Opponent's mono blue so far. So we can expect some counter spells. Azusa is the card I really want to resolve. So maybe we bait with Excavator, which our opponent's still incentivized to counter since it gets back Strip Mine. So expecting a mana drain. Just an impulse, okay. So now we can at the very least strip mine each turn. I see, show and tell. So opponent could go for an Omniscience here. I don't have Boseiju up to blow it up. Unless, I guess, I go for a land. So maybe, I guess never mind. I don't have a legendary, so it would still be 2 mana to channel. So I'll go for Explorer then. Yep, opponent's got the Omniscience. And now an Oracle, just to draw a card. That's fine. So they don't have the big finish in hand yet. Charm to draw 2. Possible Chalice is also stopping some of their 1 mana plays. And yeah, opponent's forced to pass it back. So could channel Boseiju if I'm worried about our opponent keeping up a counter spell. So I could start there. That's 2 mana. And then I should still be able to play Azusa. Thanks to the extra land from Explorer. And then I want to keep Strip Mine in the graveyard for now. So I can play it once I redeploy Azusa. So we can Strip Mine twice. And then next turn we can Strip Mine their remaining lands. Hit you for 2. And then with the Explorer at some point we'll mill one of the lands that lets us draw. So we can draw through the deck. And yeah, opponent knows what's happening and scoops it up. We can easily Strip Mine all 3 of their islands and our opponent won't be able to recover. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing off against a Kahira deck. This hand is just too slow. No Mox, no Strip Mine, no Ancient Tomb, so just a little too fair. This is better. Do we keep Rumble or do we keep Karn? I think that's the decision here, because I'm gonna need Once Upon a Time to hit my land drop, ideally find Ancient Tomb. Karn gives us something else to ramp into, but I could see Rumble being more useful if we fail to hit our land drops. Can also mill for Explorer. But there will be matchups where Karn is going to be useful. Turn 1 island, so it could be more of a control deck. Once Upon a Time finds Azusa. And I'm afraid I'm just going to have to Strip Mine here. Could have also waited until the opponent's upkeep to play around Stifle, in case they were running that. So, pretty desperate to draw land now. Gaia's Blessing shuffles back islands, so opponent's prepared for the mill decks. So I can either Rumble or Chalice on x equals 1. Rumble makes it more likely that I keep hitting my land drops. And yeah, I'm still not quite sure what our opponent's up to. So I'll grab probably a fetch land, doesn't matter. I already have a fetch land in the graveyard. So maybe a forest is fine. And then of course the fetch land still ends up in the graveyard, where we could get it back with the Explorer. Alright, I mean we've got triple Explorer in hand, so I could try casting one of them. Could also Chalice on x equals 2 if we're afraid of mana drains and similar effects. Yeah, the only issue with casting Explorer is if they counter, then I don't have land 4 to play another one on the following turn. So I could also just Rumble again. And then wait one more turn to go for Explorer. Opponent Spell Pierces, that's fine. Opponent Brainstorms. So Chalice on 1 could be effective. Since they're running Kahira, it cannot be an Atraxa Show and Tell deck, but it could be a different Show and Tell variant. The One Ring is acceptable. So now I can resolve Explorer and put Strip Mine to work. Karn also shuts down the One Ring, so have a few options. But I'm kind of liking the double Strip Mine play. Question is, if I sacrifice Strip Mine again, I probably shouldn't, in case they just remove the Explorer. Then I need 4 mana in play to play another one. Opponent draws with the One Ring. And yeah, Swords to Plowshares. So they do still have double blue up, but we can potentially Strip Mine one of the lanes. Alright, now they've got another one. So Strip Mine's not enough to stop a mana drain, for instance. Teferi, also pretty good. So it does just look like a blue-white control deck. Bouncing the One Ring. Alright, so run back Explorer. And even though I cannot Strip Mine, I can play a couple fetch lands out, play Cobra. Alright, never mind, hit another Strip Mine. So, seems worth it. Over playing Chalice or playing Lotus Cobra. I mean, I guess I could Chalice on 1. They could still bounce it with another Teferi if they have it. But it does make it maybe more difficult for them to answer the Explorer. But when in doubt, Strip Mine is not a bad way to go about it. Opponent Brainstorms. Plays a tap land. So they didn't have a fetch land to shuffle, but they kept on top anyway, and they had a Fragment Reality. Okay, so that gets replaced by Azusa. Teferi pluses. So we can just play another Explorer here and go to town. Can I play a Lotus Cobra first, perhaps? Play Cobra, fetch. I guess I still have a Strip Mining Graveyard. Yeah, that might be worth it. Start hitting your white sources. Opponent island cycles. And then we can still maybe drop a chalice on one as well. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. Yeah, it's difficult to play a control deck without lands in play. So yeah, we got to see this mono-green strip mine prison deck in action. And it can be incredibly satisfying once you establish the strip mine lock with an explorer in play to replay it over and over again. But sometimes the deck can be a little slow out of the gates if we don't draw Chrome Mox or Ancient Tomb, and then our opponent can slip a few threats through the cracks, and the format has some incredibly powerful 1 and 2 mana cards like Ragavan, Ocelot Pride, Ajani out of the energy decks, and if one of those can stick the landing, they can sometimes take over by themselves. So our deck doesn't have the best catch-up mechanism once the opponent already gets a few cards on the battlefield, but if our opponent's maybe more of a combo deck and needs to set up to fire off their combo, then maybe we can strip mine them a few times, take them off balance, and then once we establish the lock, we can take over pretty quickly. But this is also a deck that rewards you for knowing the format, knowing when and how to play your Chalice of the Void can also be important, so it does take a little bit of getting used to. But yeah, for now it seems like a great place to abuse strip mine while it's still around, because it may get banned at some point since it's a pretty ridiculous card after all. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.